there's a lot of potential for aggressive expansion. So which of you fine gentlemen would like to join our team? Oh, there's only one spot open right now, so we're gonna have tryouts.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and I've got some breaking news here on the channel. I was about to do this comic book industry news video where we were going to talk about basically Barbara Gordon quitting being Batgirl and what that could imply. But now we have confirmation. Oracle is returning in the pages of Batman 100. Going to get into the details of that here in a few seconds. But I'm also going to talk about Al Ewing and Valerio Schiti's new Sword comic, which I guess is going to be spitting out of the pages of Empire and Ten of Swords, I believe in beginning of 2021. Also, the newest professor at the Kubert School for comic book professionals, Dan Didio. I'm going to talk about his new job, maybe some of the things he'll be working on there. A lot of interesting stuff. Obviously, the Oracle news is breaking right now, and I swear to God, I was just talking about this with my friend Josh, and I said, "Hey, you want to talk about Batgirl? Have you been reading that?" He's like, "No, but did anything happen?" I said, "Well, she just quit in Batgirl 49." He goes, "Oh, do you think Cassandra Cain's going to be the new Batgirl?" I said, "I'm not sure, but I think she's going back to being Oracle." And I was going to explain that here, but it turns out that is the case, and we have somewhat confirmation from that. I guess Bleeding Cool, it was confirmed through some of their sources, and I guess the first thing that you're going to see in Batman 100 by James Tynion and Jorge Jimenez is Barbara Gordon. She's going to be sitting at her computer, and she's going to say, "Okay, it's time to let everyone know that Oracle is back online." Within the Bleeding Cool article, which is a rumor article, it does state they're not sure if it's permanent, but they also confirm that we have seen Cassandra Cain in both the Joker War and Batman 100 images that she is wearing the Batgirl costume with the bat symbol on her chest. So I'm actually pretty certain that Cassandra Cain will be elevating back up to full-time Batgirl, whereas Barbara Gordon is going to move over and become Oracle for full-time again. This is great news. That is the best version of Barbara Gordon, in my opinion. And honestly, it's one of the few disabled superheroes that DC Comics has in their arsenal. Certainly the best known. Certainly the one with the most storied history. Obviously, that comes out of the pages of The Killing Joke, where a lot of bad things happen in that comic book. Obviously, it's from the mind of Alan Moore, but Barbara Gordon gets paralyzed in that. She takes that moment and becomes stronger and more powerful than she ever had before that, even as Batgirl, when she became Oracle, and she was kind of the brains behind the Bat family and the Birds of Prey and all that. Obviously, a lot of creators had a lot of things to do with that. Gail Simone, I believe Chuck Dixon had some really cool stuff done with Oracle as well. But I think Oracle's a really cool character. I'm glad that the character is coming back. I think it's a good move by DC Comics. I don't know why they ever changed her back to being Batgirl. There are other characters that fill that role, but there's really no other character that could fill the role of Oracle. She still will be walking. Obviously, she has the chip in her back, and that's kind of how they brought her back as Batgirl. But I think this is good news. I do want to show you exactly why I think this is permanent. This was actually what I was going to be covering within this video, but we'll go over it. In Batman 49, which is a terrible comic book. It is awful. It's Cecil Castellucci, and she really probably just wastes probably the best illustrated comic of Robbie Rodriguez's career. Not the big fan of Robbie Rodriguez, but this scene right here is just, he does a great job. But a lot of times on the channel, I'll say all this decompressed storytelling, writing for the trades. Well, this is the most compressed storytelling I've ever seen. Obviously, James Gordon Jr. has been reintroduced in Batgirl. I covered the comic book a couple of weeks ago because I was reading it up for Joker War. And in this one, they compress 3 or 4 issues worth of story and detective work all into one, where they're women that look like Barbara Gordon. They're being dressed up as Batgirl. They're being murdered, and they're being left around the city of Gotham. And there's all kinds of weird continuity mistakes in this. Barbara Gordon, during her investigation, will say, "This is the only woman that was alive when she wore the Batgirl when she was put the Batgirl costume on before she was murdered. Well, we know that's not true because at least 2 of the women were shown to have been alive when they had the Batgirl costume on. There's a bunch of continuity stakes in this comic. I don't want to go into all of them, but it's really stupid. And like, there's a moment where she triangulates all the murders and finds an apartment. She says, "I think he's here." And she goes to that apartment, and it's her brother's apartment. And there's a wall of all of her stuff on there. But he somehow convinces her he's not the murderer, even though he's a sociopathic murderer. So this is a very poorly constructed comic book. But at the end, they end up on the top of a building. She confronts her brother. Turns out he has multiple personalities. She tries to talk him off the ledge. She's going to try and help him out. He jumps and kills himself. Commissioner Gordon, former Commissioner Gordon, he's no longer the commissioner. He sees it, and he thinks that Batgirl killed his son. And that's kind of the forced, basically conflict that Cecil Castellucci forced together in one issue that should have been 3 or 4 issues. And as he's going to arrest her, she escapes, and then the last thing she says here on this panel is, "I give up." And this is essentially her giving up the Batgirl persona, the Batgirl mantle. And I figured, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure this has come down from DC editorial. They want to move back Barbara Gordon off of Batgirl, do something else with her. I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure this is her moving over to Oracle, which is a good move. I think that's a good move. And they've done a lot of stuff with the Bat family to really fix it the last few weeks. If you haven't noticed, Damian Wayne is no longer Robin. He's given up the Robin sigil. He's no longer Robin because essentially he's crazy, and he had a private prison where he was torturing people and stuff. Tim Drake is no longer Drake. He's back to being Robin. Rick Grayson is no more. He's back to being Dick Grayson. He has the Nightwing suit. We haven't seen him wear it yet. So he's DC Comics, specifically James Tynion, have been doing a lot of things to fix the Bat family, and I think this is a big part of it. So I believe we're going to see Cassandra Cain take back on the Batgirl role, and we're going to see Barbara Gordon move over to Oracle. We know at least we'll see it for one issue with Batman 100, but I believe this is going to be the new status quo moving forward, and this is kind of how we know that. This is a very bad comic book. Do not go read Batgirl 49 because it is terrible. The art's actually pretty good, but the story itself is a convoluted mess. It makes no sense. It's very rushed. It's too bad that they had somebody like Cecil Castellucci, probably the worst writer at DC Comics by far, try to execute something this important. I'm a bit disappointed in that. But I am very excited that Oracle is returning. This is long overdue. This is the best disabled superhero that DC Comics had. They're bringing her back. I believe she will be walking at the time. Who knows? We know that in a couple issues ago that who was it? Luke Fox said, if you take another hit to your chip, it's going to break and you'll be paralyzed again. So I imagine that's probably going to come into play relatively soon, when they'll probably have her back in the wheelchair as Oracle again. At least that's what I'm imagining is going to happen. So what do you guys think? Are you excited to see Oracle returning to the Bat family and maybe Cassandra Cain elevating back up to Batgirl as they kind of right the ship, reset up all the pieces on the chessboard of the Bat family? James Tynion's, I haven't loved his Batman Joker War story all that much. I think it's too decompressed. But I will give him this. He's made a lot of changes to the Bat family, and I agree with basically every one of them. So I think that's good. They definitely need to do some work on fixing Damian Wayne's character. I don't know. Every time he takes 3 steps forward, they take 15 steps back, and they regress him into being psycho again. Just let him be a superhero that has a few issues, kind of like Jason Todd. Hopefully they address that. Hopefully that's the next thing they really work on and fix. But it feels like this is a big change, and I'm happy for it. Now, moving on to a couple of the other comic book industry news articles or issues I was going to talk about, we do have a new Dawn of X title coming up. It is going to be Sword. And I think this is kind of weird. I don't understand why they're even doing this. I mean, obviously Al Ewing's success on Immortal Hulk speaks for itself. He's doing Guardians of the Galaxy right now, but I don't know why you're even rolling anything out of Empire. That event sucked. It started out okay, but it just kind of fell apart under the weight of whatever it was trying to be, and it just It was no setup to it, but it appears like all the fallout is happening in these like Empire, Fantastic Four, Epilogue, Empire, Avengers, Epilogue books. These big events aren't even happening in the main series, or didn't even happen in the main series. All the outcome stuff is happening afterwards, and people kind of long since abandoned the run. But this is going to be Al Ewing. He's a big writer for Marvel right now. I don't think he's a superstar. I will get some hate in the comments for that. That's fine. Also, Valerio Schiti, who did a very good job and certainly did the best that he could to salvage Empire. I thought the art on there was pretty strong throughout. There's some issues here or there, but Valerio Schiti is a capable artist, and I think that'll be pretty good. But this is going to be Sword. We obviously saw at the very end of Ten of Swords creation #1, Sword came back online, and who are the mutants that are going to be part of it? It's going to be Magneto, Abigail Brand, Cable, Frenzy, WizKid, Fabian Cortez, and the former Avenger Manifold, and other fan favorite mutants are going to be a part of this. I don't know that this is going to be a big success. I don't think the cover looks all that great, and then they actually put out some character art from Valerio Schiti on the characters. Abigail Brand looks like low rent Trinity from the Matrix, with some green hair, and obviously highlights on the costume. Nothing we haven't seen before. I'm sure she's very powerful. Okay, a very generic looking comic book character by today's standard. We see this essentially in every new comic that gets launched. Manifold, I don't know why he's wearing a ski jacket. I don't know. Maybe it's his personality. Maybe he's a ski bum. But he's got a zip-up hoodie with a mask on it. Looks pretty silly. WizKid, even more embarrassing. I guess he's riding Xavier's chair from the 90s because he's standing in the art, so I imagine he's an able-bodied character. But is he so Gen Z that he's too lazy to walk? Is that what it is, folks? Maybe that's what it is. And of course, he's WizKid. He's going to be a computer whiz. He's going to be a whiz with the computer, so he must be Asian. I'm sure at one point later on in the series, we will learn that he can, do some wonders with nunchucks or something else. Another stereotype that they can throw on Asian characters, because you can never have any Asian characters that fall outside of stereotypes. It's one of the weird things I've noticed with Marvel and basically the entire industry. That's the way they handle Asian characters. I don't get it. This does not excite me. I think this is kind of embarrassing. I've heard some people say it's the Burger King's Kids Club. I hear that. I hear that joke all the time. Whenever Marvel introduces a new team, they always look stupid. The New Warriors, certainly more embarrassing than this. I would say Children of the Atom, more embarrassing than this. But this isn't something anyone should be proud of. I'm sure Valerio Schiti was pretty embarrassed when he was given instructions on what they wanted. This stuff isn't exciting. I guess they are color coordinated, and the other members of the team. There will be a blue guy, and what other colors? Is that orange or yellow? Who cares? They'll be color coordinated. They'll be very bright. Apparently, all going to have zip-up hoodies. Are you excited for Sword? I wish they would cut it out with, slow your roll on the Dawn of X stuff. Sure, some of the established titles like, X-Force, Wolverine, X-Men have been good. Even Hellions, which obviously was an established title, that one's been pretty solid. But for the most part, even like New Mutants sucked. Excalibur, in my opinion, sucks. Marauders, in my opinion, sucked. There's a lot of mediocrity in there. Obviously, we do have Vita Ayala moving over to New Mutants, so it's probably only going to get worse. Ed Brisson is actually a good X-Men writer. I don't know why he couldn't bring New Mutants together, but that apparently was not the title for him. So I wish they would kind of get their house in order as far as House of X, or Dawn of X goes, and kind of fix the titles and get the teams that they have right now that aren't working in working order before they keep announcing crap. There's obviously still an X-Corps title that we were told about. We might not even say this. There's a few other titles that are kind of hanging out there that we're waiting to see. And we don't even know if Ten of Swords is going to be a hit. 22 chapter event is fucking bogus. If you ask me, Empire was a dud. No one really enjoyed that. Should we really be spinning things out of things that aren't successful? I guess in Marvel's opinion, the Legion Doofus's opinion, absolutely. But this does not portend good things for Sword. It looks pretty stupid, in my opinion. If you think these costumes are dope, good on you. It's not for me, obviously. Maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy. There's always that shit. Maybe I'm an old fuddy-duddy and I don't know what's hip and cool anymore. Now, the last thing we do have to talk about is former DC co-publisher Dan Didio is moving over to the Kubert School. And he's basically, I don't know if he's going to be, do they call him professors? I imagine they call him something like that. And he is going to be teaching a class called From Concept to Sale, to beginning on October 1st. And it runs through the end of the year. And Didio was going to teach how to develop and present your ideas for a character, book, or series to publishers or other media outlets, which is something, if you want to be a comic book creator, you have to pitch. So I think this is kind of a pretty cool class to take. And honestly, people might not like this, but Dan Didio is probably a good person to teach this. Obviously, he was a co-publisher at DC Comics for 10 years. He was quickly elevated after arriving at the company in 2002. So he'd kind of been an executive there for, 17, 18 years. So he has a lot of experience with pitching and things like that. And to be completely honest, he actually had some really winner ideas. Like, if you think about the New 52, did it suck? Yes, but the concept was good. People liked it. The sales boomed immediately. It's just his problem has always been execution. He's an idea guy that can't execute his concepts or can't get his team to execute the concepts to any type of desirable manner. So is he a person that should probably be teaching how to pitch and make ideas? Sure, because he is an idea guy. Now, if he was teaching them, how this is how you execute your idea, and like if he was teaching a class on knowing your audience and creating comics that they're going to like, Dan Didio might not be he would not be the guy for that class, because that's probably his biggest failing. He never quite understood who his audience was. He was always creating cool ideas that his audience would like, and then he was writing them for somebody else. And he also certainly he seemed to think that the main thing that made DC Comics special was like all their Elseworlds, really dark material like Dark Knight Returns, obviously Watchmen, kind of all that stuff, Red Sun, and those are all cool. But I think he tried to bring all that stuff into the mainline continuity and kind of ended up ruining DC Comics by the time he left. In my opinion, obviously some people probably supported him. So I think he's more than qualified to teach this course. It's something, hey, if they had it online and it wasn't too expensive, I would probably go in and check it out, because I wouldn't mind learning that from him. I would have questions for him. And it seems like something he would know a thing or two about. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't, if he was telling you how to write for your audience or to please your audience, he's not the guy. But if it's a concept idea and how to pitch, he's probably somebody that would be eminently qualified to do that at the Kubert School. So I think it's probably a good hire. I know Dan Didio is not the most popular person in the world. I certainly made enough content talking about Dan Didio's failings at DC Comics, but this seems like right in his wheelhouse. So that'll do it, folks. That is the news today. Obviously, the big one is Oracle is returning in Batman 100. This is kind of late breaking news. I was going to be talking about, I think our Oracle's returning because of what we just saw in Batgirl 49. Sounds like Cassandra Cain is likely going to be the new Batgirl. It sounds like Oracle's returning to the fold, and she's going to be the brains, the eyes, the all-seeing eyes behind the Bat family. I think that's a good change. I think that's something we needed. I'm excited about it, and it's something to be looking forward to in Batman 100. Don't know that the continuity completely checks out, because when we left Batman 99, it didn't seem like Oracle was just going to be like, well, let me go back home and investigate these murders. It seemed like she was kind of in the middle of something. So none of the continuity on Joker War between the titles has really worked out. So I don't even care about that. I'm over it. Oracle's returning. That's going to be cool. Al Ewing's sword, if you're excited for it, good for you. I think that they should slow the roll, maybe get what they have in Dawn of X right before they keep introducing these new titles. It doesn't seem very exciting to me that the costumes, the character designs look pretty embarrassing. Dan Didio's got a new job. If you're going to the Kubert School, you can take his class, and I do think he's somebody that who should be able to teach that and is very qualified. So that's the news today, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Want to hear your feedback. What do you think about all these all these breaking news? Obviously, I imagine most people are going to want to talk about Oracle. That should be in the comments. If you want to talk about Oracle's return, that's where it's going to be happening, folks.